Okay, so let's jump right into this. Imagine being a totally modern young woman named Meghna. You're trying to sleep, but your nights are just plagued by these vivid, absolutely terrifying nightmares. In these dreams, she's not herself. She actually sees herself as a 400-year-old royal princess, just wandering the dark halls of this ancient palace. She wakes up screaming, completely drenched in sweat, only to remember that the nightmare doesn't end when she opens her eyes. She is currently staying in a village that is actively haunted by a very real, very immediate supernatural threat. I mean, the terror right outside her door is so intense that the local leaders actually traveled for hours just to summon a powerful tantric Maharaj to try and save them.
Now, to really understand why every single villager is locked inside, terrified to even sleep, we have to define exactly what's lurking out there in the dark. We're talking about the Nishir Molo, and listen, these aren't your run-of-the-mill spooky ghosts. They are phantom coffin bearers, spectral figures that wander the village streets specifically on Saturday nights, bringing pretty much absolute doom to anyone unlucky enough to cross their path.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are going to untangle this incredibly complex 400-year-old lore. As the Tantric gathers these terrified villagers in an old, lit-up fort, we're going to explore Kata Karahasya, the dark origins of the Nishir Molok. Our goal today is to uncover exactly how a village's absolute bravest protectors, men who literally risked everything for their people, were tragically twisted into its deadliest curse.
All right, let's rewind a bit. We're jumping back to the year 1626 because this entire tragedy begins centuries ago during the reign of King Vishwajit. Now, his kingdom wasn't just having a rough patch, it was suddenly completely ravaged by a horrifying pandemic. The situation was incredibly dire. Citizens were falling gravely ill every single day, and the survival of the entire realm was really just hanging by a thread.
So imagine the sheer chaos of that era. While this deadly plague is just wiping out the kingdom, the king happens to be traveling through a forest. And there, he gets completely distracted by this mysterious, breathtakingly beautiful woman drawing water from a well. Her name is Damayanti. He marries her almost instantly. This leaves his young daughter, the princess, to basically step up and save everyone. Through some profound spiritual effort, the princess single-handedly cultivates this miraculous glowing green cure from a sacred seed, which she names Mrityunjay Amrit.
Talk about a massive difference in priorities, right? On one side, you've got the princess, who is laser-focused on dispensing these life-saving drops of Mrityunjay Amrit to her 6 citizens. She actually ends the pandemic within 2 months. But on the flip side, you have the king. He completely abandons his royal duties. He just ignores his dying kingdom because of this blind, intoxicating obsession with his new queen, spending literally every waking moment by her side.
But, well, the fairy tale doesn't last. One day, Damayanti's flawless beauty just vanishes. Right before the king's eyes, her youthful glow fades away, her skin gets deeply wrinkled, and she transforms into a terrifying, withered old woman, gasping for breath. That whole captivating illusion she had over the king, completely and horrifyingly shattered. And then comes the confession that changes everything. Damayanti drops an absolute bombshell on the shocked king. She tells him, "I am a Dayan. I need the blood of corpses to survive." Yeah, she confesses she isn't some beautiful young woman at all. She's actually a 100-year-old dark witch, and her borrowed supernatural youth has just simply run out. Which brings us to a very specific and terrifying number, 11. To survive past the upcoming night of Ekadashi, which is a fast-approaching lunar deadline, and to get her dark magic and beauty back, Damayanti tells the king she needs exactly 11 human corpses. She literally has to bathe in the fresh blood of 11 dead bodies, or she's going to die.
Now, you'd think the king would execute her, right? Nope. This is where history takes a totally macabre turn. The Mad King unleashes his wrath on his own grieving people. He officially bans all cremations in the entire kingdom. His royal guards start violently confiscating the bodies of the recently deceased right out of their homes, mutilating them just to harvest blood for Damayanti's bath. He selfishly sacrifices the moksha, the ultimate spiritual liberation of his own citizens. He even brushes off his daughter's pleas, basically saying it's only a crime if he kills the living.
So you really got to ask yourself, how does a village of ordinary, grieving citizens possibly stand up to a tyrant king backed by heavily armed spies? They couldn't exactly fight an open war with swords. They had to fight back with absolute, terrifying secrecy. This impossible situation forced them into an incredibly desperate secret rebellion. Let's walk through it, because it's brilliant but heartbreaking. First, grieving families had to completely suppress all public mourning. No crying, no wailing, so the spies wouldn't know someone died. Second, they'd wait in agonizing silence until the dead of midnight. Third, 4 specially appointed men would secretly lift the corpse. And finally, they'd carry it into the pitch black to conduct a totally silent, hidden cremation just to ensure their loved ones achieved moksha.
Let's talk about those 4 men, because they were the unsung heroes here. These profoundly brave pallbearers were appointed by the village, and they were called Molo. Since they operated exclusively in the pitch-black shadows, risking actual execution to dodge the king's guards, the villagers gave them a special title, Nishir Molo, which translates to the pallbearers of the night.
And incredibly, for 15 straight days, this wall of silence holds up. The secret network is a brilliant success. No bodies are confiscated. The king is completely deprived of the fresh corpses he desperately needs for the witch's dark ritual, and it pushes his anxiety and his wrath to the absolute breaking point.
But eventually their luck runs out, and what becomes known as the Saturday Night Massacre. The king is furious, and with that Ekadashi deadline looming, he deploys hidden spies to watch the village relentlessly. And on one fateful Saturday night, under the cover of darkness, those spies finally spot the Nishir Molo and uncover the whole secret operation.
It's an absolute bloodbath. The king's spies ruthlessly ambush and murder the 4 brave Nishir Molo right there in the dark. The corpse they were trying to protect is stolen and taken straight to the palace. And tragically, that stolen body is the vital 11th corpse needed for the ritual. Diamante takes her bath, and the next morning, she emerges from her chambers with her terrifying youth and beauty completely restored.
But here is where history crosses over into a terrifying supernatural curse. The brutal, sudden deaths of those 4 men trigger an anomaly. Because the Nishir Molo were murdered violently while carrying out a sacred, selfless duty, their spirits become trapped in an endless loop. They have absolutely no idea they've been killed, and they genuinely believe they are still carrying out their secret, dangerous mission.
And that is exactly what the villagers face today. Because these spirits are violently trapped in their final moments, every single Saturday night, the ghosts of those 4 men wander the village carrying a spectral coffin. In their confused state, they mistake literally anyone they encounter in the dark for the king's murderous spies. To protect the body they think they're carrying, they violently take those innocent people away, and they are never seen again.
It brings us to this incredibly heartbreaking realization from the Tantric. He tells the villagers, "Those who are our deadly enemies today were once our protectors." The very monsters forcing everyone to lock their doors in absolute terror right now were originally the village's bravest, most selfless heroes who died just trying to protect their neighbors' souls.
All right, snapping back to the present day, the stakes are higher than ever. The Tantric reveals that breaking this 400-year-old cycle is not going to be easy. It requires finding an ancient hidden text called the Birampur Puran, which was secretly stashed away in the royal palace centuries ago. To find out exactly where it is, the Tantric has to perform a highly dangerous ritual right there in the old fort, while all the villagers stay safely locked inside.
So as the Tantric prepares for this perilous ritual, and that dark Saturday night looms right outside the fort's walls, we're left hanging with 2 massive questions. Exactly where in that ruined palace is the Birampur Puran hidden? And, maybe even more intriguingly, why is our modern-day protagonist, Meghna, inexplicably linked to the memories of that heroic princess from 1626? What is her true identity? Well, those are the mysteries I'll leave you to ponder as we